Why aren't creepers any good in arguments? They have a short fuse. I thought it's because they always resort to slurs. Well, that's the last time I buy a book for the plot. Talking about Minecraft products which aren't Minecraft, have you ever thought about those weird spin-off games? No, I'm not talking about the console editions or the editions released for the Nintendo DS, or even those weird versions from China. No, I'm talking about those spin-off games. Minecraft Story Mode, Minecraft Story Mode Season 2, Minecraft Dungeons in 2020, and even Minecraft Legends last year. Oh, and there was also a game called Minecraft Earth, but that got taken out back and shot in the head due to the pandemic, so now it's literally unplayable. I would have really liked to cover it in this video, but all the footage on YouTube I can find is either unwatchable or just some prick trying to shill his server on YouTube Shorts.
Is this Minecraft Earth server? Is this Minecraft Earth server actually real? I get this question asked a lot, and the answer is yes, it is.
And the answer is no, it's fake. I made it all up. So that leaves me with these 4 ugly ducklings. And truth be known, I've never actually played any of these. In fact, I know diddly squat. But I had a question and I intend to find an answer. Are any of these games even any good? Well, to find out, let's start at the beginning. Released in 2015, Minecraft Story Mode. Developed by Telltale Games, Story Mode is the same genre as the rest of their repertoire, such as Tales from the Borderlands, The Wolf Among Us, and chiefly those Walking Dead games. However, unlike the rest of Telltale's library, which can still be purchased on Steam, Minecraft Story Mode has basically been erased from existence. You can't even buy the game officially anymore, only being able to play legitimately by purchasing pre-owned copies such as this one online. But even physical copies like this have issues. You see, only episode 1 is actually included on the disc, with episodes 2 and 5 expected to be digitally downloaded. But you can't do that anymore. So even the physical copies are screwed. Or you could pirate it. So we'll be playing on PC for no particular reason. It's crap! While talking about my opinion and dissatisfaction of Story Mode online, I received a lot of comments from people disagreeing with me. Gerg, you have no taste. Gerg, the little respect I had for you is now gone. Ooh, what a hot take from the local rage baiter. Rage baiter? Why does everyone call me a rage baiter? Oh, what? Am I baiting your rage? Can you not control it? Well, I'm not rage baiting everyone, I just have an opinion. Hey everyone! I have an opinion! I have an opinion! I have an opinion. Alright, let's get into it. Minecraft Story Mode is, unsurprisingly, a story-based narrative game. The main enjoyment and fun is supposedly from not just unraveling the story set in the Minecraft universe, but from the choices and decisions you make in said story. The game is split into 5 different parts it calls episodes, and each episode starts with this screen telling you just how much your choices matter. After all, choice is important, it's the game part of this narrative game. And a persistent theme and constant annoyance throughout this entire experience enduring this over-glorified cutscene is the lack of agency and actual choice in the events happening. But I'll get more into that when we reach it. For now, I have to lay out the lore. What is this game even about? You play as Jesse, a down-on-his-luck Minecraft noob, just trying to make his way living in this blocky world. And maybe, just maybe, someday become a legend. Just like his heroes, the Order of the Stone, a guild of 4 renowned players who managed to even kill the Ender Dragon. Ooh. Now you do actually get to choose the gender of Jesse, man or woman, which also changes the voice actor. I'm bringing this up because it's unironically the biggest impact you can have on the entire game. You get to choose a voice. So for season 1, I went with male Jesse, which I quickly found out was voiced by Patton Oswalt. So to me, it just sounded like I was speaking to Remy from Ratatouille for 6 hours.
I mean, I did build a super cool statue, but still, it's pretty sweet being you, huh?
The main cast consists of the protagonist, Jesse, his fat friend Axel, Olivia, who watched like one Redstone Door tutorial and now thinks they're an expert, Petra, who is slightly less incompetent as she does know how to craft stone tools, and Jesse's pet pig Reuben, who is voiced by D. Bradley Baker. I bring this up because he voices everything ever, it's crazy. It's worth noting that throughout this entire game as you're playing, you are constantly making dialogue decisions. Except out of the 4 responses you can give, 3 of them are more often than not just the same response worded in 3 different ways. And the 4th is always silence, where the dialogue will just continue and almost act like you chose one of the other 3. Take this dialogue option for example. Olivia here is unsure whether we're going to win a building competition. I have the options, "We'll win this time," or "Have a little faith," or "Anything could happen." All 3 of these responses are kind of the exact same in just trying to sway her doubts. I don't have an option to perhaps agree with her, to doubt our own ability. I don't have an option to ask why she feels this way. I don't have an option to scold her for being so negative. The nearest I can get to any of these is to just stay silent. Which I did because I'm a prick, and the conversation just quickly moves on to the next choice and acts like I did nothing at all. And I'm not just cherry picking either. The entire game is like this. The entire game. The dialogue choices don't influence anyone. You can't change their opinions or convince them to do something different, because you don't get a choice on what to say, just how to say it slightly differently. Each episode has a set conclusion, and you will reach that no matter what you choose, no matter what you say, no matter what you do. And in between all of these minor, pointless dialogue choices, there are minutes and minutes at a time of sheer nothing, where I'm just sat in my chair watching a cutscene play out in front of me. Absolutely no agency. I get to play. I get one choice.
But I'm still pretty cool.
Take me to her. Boom. This isn't to say all dialogue options are meaningless. For example, when asked about your team name for the building competition, you can choose between these options, and whichever you pick is again mentioned at the end of the episode by one of the characters in a meaningless passing remark, which is then never ever mentioned ever again for the rest of the game. Yay! Choice! And sure, this might seem a bit nitpicky that some random team name doesn't become a centralized core element and isn't brought up again past that point, but this isn't a singular thing, but rather just one example of what the game does constantly. Give you constant meaningless dialogue options which do or change nothing, and then once in a while throw in the occasional one which will be referenced only once later down the road. Usually indicated by a snarky box in the top left corner, telling you how a character will remember that. As an avid Telltale Games fan, I feel so damn rewarded that Petra will remind me that my shoes are red 3 hours from now before continuing the thing she was already doing. And when I say 3 hours later, I'm of course exaggerating, because these choices are always contained to the specific episode you're playing, which lasts on average like 90 minutes tops, with only 1 or 2 major decisions actually mattering in an hour and a half of bloody gameplay, most of which is nothing but boring cutscenes, occasionally interrupted by goddamn QuickTime events. It's like being trapped in a Skinner box! You can always tell if a choice actually matters, because the game gives you 2 options instead of 4. I guess it's to make things even easier for whatever vermin wrote this trash. And most of those 2 option decisions don't even matter within themselves, usually being a slight change in scene or a slight variation which are then corrected for at the start of the very next episode. They call it branching story paths, to resemble that of a tree with its vast network of intertwined and sprawling twigs. Minecraft Story Mode, on the other hand, is a fucking bamboo shaft. Make no mistake, the game can flash up this black screen, boasting its choices and how the game adapts, but it's a bold-faced lie. It is a linear game. Every single player which plays this will be at the exact same position of episode 1. So my conclusion is, there is no choice in this game. It's non-existent. So all I'm left to talk about is the linear story it does actually have, and the laughable attempt of action gameplay interspersed throughout. First, however, let me catch you up on the story. So you get a choice on what you build at the competition, but it doesn't matter, you will lose, as no matter what, it will burn down. You save Ruben from some zombies where you meet Petra for the first time and agree to do a drug deal in some back alley. Later that night at the drug deal, you meet a character called Ivor, but everyone calls him Ivor, despite that literally not being how you pronounce that goddamn name. Did nobody even check? Well, Ivor scams you out of the Wither School you was trading him and runs away. You pursue him and accidentally find his secret basement where he's making a wither, but mysteriously has a command block at the center. Despite identifying this as a wither being constructed at a public event and is the real world equivalent of finding a bomb being planted at a fucking fun run, Jesse and the gang just ignore this act of literal terrorism and instead go to meet Jesse's hero Gabriel. But is quickly interrupted by Ivor, who goes on an obvious villain speech, turns on the wither, and presumably kills at least 300 people. Except the command block in the center makes this not an ordinary wither, but a wither storm. Some incomprehensible eldritch beast of pure chaos. Jesse then has a sequence of more stupid QuickTime events before escaping and traveling to an ancient temple, where he then gets the main quest to reassemble the old Order of the Stone and its members. So the game is broken into 3 main gameplay sections. You've got the boring cutscenes with the meaningless dialogue, which I've already spoken about at length. You have the action sequences, and you have the walk around puzzle sections. The action scenes are just QuickTime events, where you're just required to press a directional arrow with a generous time limit, or press Q, or press E. So it's entirely possible to play with one hand. So luckily you can use the other to browse Twitter because the game's so boring. It's also worth pointing out that most of these QuickTime events can just be failed with no consequence either. Some of the only fun I had in this game was deliberately missing them and then watching Jesse get hit in the head or beat up. Occasionally though, the game will give you one where if you miss it, you'll die, and then you'll have to rewatch the characters speak. So death is severely punishing. Oh, they're right on us! Oh! And finally, we have the walk around puzzle sections, where you control Jesse for once and get to walk around an environment and click on objects. 99% of them will just trigger a cutscene of more dialogue though.
Oh look, there's something above you can look
yeah,
at.
hang on, wait a second.
No quip.
Not
no,
even a
no.
comment. In these sections, there'll be some form of puzzle, which usually involve clicking on all the things available, and eventually one of them will just trigger the next scene for you, be it finding a lever, or going in the right direction, or maybe even crafting a certain object if you find the right items. But don't worry, you can't craft the wrong object. In a Telltale narrative experience, you choose the story. Now, to say something positive about the game, the Witherstorm as a central antagonist is quite interesting, and has clearly shown endurance with the wider fanbase. The idea of combining a real enemy from the game, but supercharged through the power of this mystical item to create an eldritch horror is great, and the actual design for the Wither is incredibly memorable. I guess if I had to nitpick it, I'd say that considering it's meant to be a supercharged wither, it doesn't really look like a wither that much, no shared elements, and instead of a skeleton and bone motif of the wither, it instead has tentacles and more organic parts. I would have more to say about the personalities of the main cast, but I mean this truly, none of them are particularly notable or have much in the way of distinctive character traits. And that brings me to my issues with the writing. Our gang of misfits don't have any kind of internal struggle or conflict. They don't clash with each other's ideas or personality. There's no scene of Axel suggesting a solution that's more bold yet brash, while Olivia suggests a more clever advanced solution, maybe using redstone. Jesse doesn't get to pick sides or say stuff that some people might agree with, but some people don't and start to dislike him, where they can show their annoyance to the player and show that their choices actually matter. Every scene and every piece of dialogue is written in such a robotic way it's infuriating. Everyone in the group is in agreement at all times. If Jesse responds optimistically, they respond back optimistically. If Jesse responds regretful, they are regretful. There is no disagreement, and when there's no disagreement, there's no uniqueness in the characters. They are all one-dimensional, just generally positive. This is doubly compounded by every character speaking in an over-explained and over-emphasized manner. Wow, we're in the end dimension. This is really spooky. I hope we find Soren soon, because if he's in the end dimension, it's gonna be spooky. Episode 2 is genuinely the most divergent of the entire game. At the end of episode 1, you got to make one choice on whether you would go with Olivia to find Eleanor or go with Axel to find Magnus. Depending on your choice, the first 40 minutes of the episode are completely different. You either go to Redstone City or to Boomtown. Except if you want to actually replay this episode, because it's kind of unique, you also have to replay the entirety of episode 1, as there's no manual saving or loading. So I guess kiss goodbye to an extra 90 minutes of time. Don't worry about missing out though, because it's not a super long section for each, mostly dialogue, and whatever you pick, the other side just resolves itself anyway, so the result is the same. I picked Eleanor because I like Redstone.
One of the key components that helps the cows dance.
This is Professor Frink from The Simpsons. So once you arrive at Redstone City, you find Eleanor, where she's trying to craft a command block. Which, if you think about it, kind of raises a lot of questions for the universe. Like, if I existed as someone living in Minecraft, a block that has the power to alter reality would honestly make me question my existence. It can spawn anything from thin air, create and destroy life. It would make atheists religious, and the religious atheists. Eventually, Eleanor joins us, and we meet back up with Axel, who's gotten Magnus himself. After that, you choose to pursue the last remaining member, someone called Soren, who has mysteriously gone missing. But you manage to track him down to a hideout, so Jesse and the gang hunt down Soren. After arriving, you find Ivor, who you get into an epic sword fight with, but he manages to use a potion of slowness to get away. I'm going to point this out now, but the game's use of music is pretty bad. There is 64 different songs in the soundtrack, but to me, this sounded like there was only 5, because they keep replaying the same ones over and over again. It's annoying. But I'm going to use this sword fight with Ivor as an example. Outside of the Witherstorm, he has been the primary antagonist, faulting you time and time again, and you finally get a chance to fight him 2v1 at the climax of the episode. It should be epic, as these two forces finally clash. The music should be dramatic, but instead, we get this. Now if you ask me, this just feels so goddamn lame, and this use of inappropriate music is present in a lot of the dramatic sequences, which completely takes away from the slight amount of care I had for the game's plot. Whatever. That brings us to episode 3, which I'm going to almost completely skip over for time. Basically, we find Soren in the end, but he's reluctant to come back, but eventually changes his mind and joins us. Woo! I decided to choose all the silent options during the dialogue where you're supposed to convince him to join Jesse's gang, and it's hilarious watching the game reroute itself into him convincing himself into joining, because the game requires it. I literally said nothing to the man, and in the space of 30 seconds, he goes from, "I'm not helping you," to, "You need me, I'll do whatever you want, my choices don't matter." Talking of choices not mattering, at the end of episode 3, you finally confront the Witherstorm for the first time, and have to choose from either Magnus or Ellegaard's armor to wear. Whoever you choose will then die. So for me, Ellegaard ended up dying. This choice is the only choice in the entire game with any long-lasting consequence. The only one, and it comes 3 episodes in. And guess what? At the very start of episode 4, Magnus, the remaining alive character, is quickly and silently written out of the episode and doesn't reappear for the entire rest of the game. Because I guess accounting for one character death would have been too much goddamn work. It just had the effect of making me feel like even that choice, one where someone literally died, in itself did not matter. Episode 4 is the conclusion of the story, and you may be thinking, but Gerg, there's 5 episodes! Correct, but the main plot ends at episode 4, and the 5th episode is solely there to set up and sell the DLC episodes, which go all the way up to episode 8, and I do not care who the YouTube commenters send, I am not playing episodes 5 to 8. You can't make me. I don't care that Stampy Longhead is in it. Die! 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 In the finale, episode 4, we travel all the way to the Farlands and discover more about the history of the Order of the Stone. Turns out Ivor was the secret 5th member, and that Ender Dragon they killed? They actually cheated and used their command block to kill it. How they discovered the original command block? We're never going to explain it. Who cares how this central core element came into being? Who cares? After learning this shocking truth, we finally confront the Witherstorm once and for all with our pet pig Reuben, in a super epic quick time event sequence. Oh god, really? Building up to a final boss in a game should really feel like it's not just the climactic test of all the players' learnt skills, but one which feels emotionally satisfying for the plot. Of course, with this game having so little in the way of real gameplay, all there really is to test is pressing the same 4 buttons the player's been intermittently pressing for the past 4 hours. More QuickTime events, yum yum! Press up now, press E now, mash the Q button again and again. If you put some seeds on your keyboard, a chicken could play this game. So at the end of the climactic battle, the stupid pig dies and the world is saved. Huzzah! Now here's the question. Would you eat that pork chop?
Yeah.
None of my choices really mattered, of course. Every dialogue option, every quote major decision I made, every conversation I endured, I would get the same ending. The same ultimate events would transpire exactly the same. It's like living in a self-correcting universe. Any deviation from a set timeline is mathematically trended towards a horizon point of pointlessness. Talking about Reuben the pig dying, by my count, the story takes place over the course of 2 in-game weeks, and Reuben is explicitly a baby pig, but in that time he would have grown up to full size. Yet, even by the end of the game, he's still a baby pig. Therefore, I can only conclude that at least 2 points in the story, Jesse brutally murdered and butchered Reuben off screen and got a new baby pig in his place. How else do you think they ate on their journey to the Farlands? So that concludes Season 1 of Story Mode. I still have more gripes about it I could waffle on about, but let's be honest, I still have Season 2 to get through. Now I was going to play these games by release year, chronologically, but that means that Story Mode Season 2 would have been next, and well, I can't do more Story Mode at the moment. Maybe later. But for now, we're doing Dungeons instead. Minecraft Dungeons was surprisingly only released in 2020. I swear to God, I thought this game was a lot older than it actually is. Probably because I've ignored its existence, loudly groaning whenever they would speak about it at Minecraft Live. So I am genuinely quite delighted to say, I do not hate this. I don't think it's fantastic, but it's decent, and certainly proved me wrong in my convictions. See, I was convinced the Minecraft spin-off could never work. The base game is just too open-ended and unique that exploring or focusing on any other genre would be losing other parts of Minecraft which make it whole. Minecraft Dungeons is very much a combat-focused game, and as a result, the creative and building aspects of Minecraft are completely non-existent. It's kind of why I've never cared about it until now. But I was wrong. The focus genre actually works quite well. You don't need building, and that's because Minecraft Dungeons isn't Minecraft, but rather just a completely separate game set in a Minecraft-themed universe. I know this sounds obvious, but I feel like it's a very important distinction to make, especially when I talk about Minecraft Legends later. The game is a top-down dungeon crawler, primarily controlled with the mouse and select hotkeys for abilities. Left-click swings your sword, right-click shoots an arrow, so combat mainly involves dynamically and quickly switching between those two main attacks. Swinging your sword a bit, dodge roll out, shoot some arrows, repeat. Now, you can't get any other types of weapon than melee blades and arrow-based trajectories, but there is a bit of variety in those categories. For example, instead of a sword, you can get an axe, or a lance, or a dagger, each with varying damage numbers and attack speeds. Same with bows, with varying damage numbers and charge-up times respectively. You acquire new weaponry by going into the different levels from the game's map screen, and then finding loot within those levels by either opening chests or defeating high-level monsters. The level and power of the loot you find is directly scaled with the difficulty of said level. So it's a risk versus reward situation. You can either choose a level with a low difficulty, or pick one with a higher difficulty for better loot. The levels themselves take on average like 20 minutes to play through first time, and are very much linear experiences, with some small diversions and side paths the players can choose to go on for some extra loot. The actual visuals and themes of the levels are pretty distinct and memorable from one another as well. There's a level in a giant desert temple, another in a redstone mine and cave system, another in a giant sky fortress. As well as all the environments feeling authentic and true to the Minecraft theme, many environments utilize an abundance of blocks, visuals, mobs, and even plants not present in normal Minecraft. However, none of them ever feel out of place, and they all work together, in my opinion, to make a quite graphically nice looking game, which is easily readable to understand what's going on, especially in later levels where the number of monsters can get a bit ridiculous. Now, I haven't touched on the game's story yet, and that's because it literally does not matter. The primary antagonists are the Illagers, and there's a head bad guy who's this like little magic evil guy we have to stop, and that's like it. It's a game 100% focused on the gameplay, with levels intended to be replayed. The newer Hitman games have a story. It's bad. Who cares though? The games are fun and the levels are meant to be replayed. It's a similar sort of situation. So it's important to emphasize that your enjoyment of Minecraft Dungeons is entirely dependent on how much you enjoy the central gameplay loop. Play level, get better loot, play slightly harder level, repeat. Of course, eventually, you are going to run out of new levels to play, and so the game subtly hints that you should be replaying levels, as each level does have multitudes of difficulties to choose from, and in fact, when you complete the game, you unlock a new mode called Adventure Mode, which offers even more challenge for those existing levels, with an even harder mode called Apocalypse later on. And of course I mention all this because at launch, the game only came with 12 levels. But don't worry, there's a slew of DLC to buy for extra content for you to feed on. Just for the low price of 60 additional US dollars, you can get what should reasonably be expected to come in the base game. For example, the game is selling level packs such as Flames of the Nether for $7, and comes with, get this, 3 whole levels. Woo! Completely unrelated, but did you know that for $7 you could also get FTL, Plate Up, Psychonauts, Gunpoint, Downwell, Black Mesa, Undertale, Left 4 Dead, and Put Put Saves the Zoo? Overwhelmingly positive! What is this game? Okay, back to the gameplay. The game has a leveling system. The more stuff you kill, the more experience you get, and eventually you level up. Each level gets you 1 enchantment point, where you can spend it to give your current weapons and armor a slight buff. For example, enemies hit with this arrow get debuffed attack damage. My problem is, this is the only sort of long-term progression which exists in the game. Your strength as a hero is only as good as the equipment you have. There's no actual progression with the character themselves. I find better swords to get better swords, and use those better swords to find better swords. Take away my sword and I would be equivalent to a level 1 character again. And because your gear is generated randomly through loot, so is your progression, and so is your playstyle. I would have much preferred to have a faster swinging sword in a quicker movement-based playstyle, except the game kept generating me heavy-hitting slow weapons. But because they were objectively better and my progression is tied to my gear, effectively, I have to use them. And as a result, I'm pigeonholed into a playstyle which I don't exactly want to play. If there was a skill tree or some sort of level-based progression which I could actually invest into, I could actually be given the control over which way my character develops, make them better or worse at certain things. In the game's current form, I'm flip-flopping between playstyles based on whatever bones the game throws my way. At one point, I found some wolf armor where it had a built-in effect which reduced my dodge roll cooldown, and I really enjoyed this. But as my health points are directly tied to what armor I'm wearing, at a certain point I had to begrudgingly abandon that armor for something boring but with higher HP. By the end of the game, I was mainly using bows and arrows, which was enjoyable because I found a genuinely overpowered combo, but it didn't exactly feel like this was a discovery on my own, rather just luck. If I had some sort of a system where I could invest in speed or daggers or dodge rolling or bloody anything, I would have much preferred it. I mean, in honest, I just wanted more complexity out of Minecraft Dungeons in general. It's a very, very simple game, and after the first 30 minutes of gameplay, you've sort of seen everything the game has to offer. There's no big change-ups or developments that keep you on your toes. It just maintains its lukewarm temperature. Ultimately, my gripes over the lack of build customization and incessant loot-based progression don't really factor that much into the actual difficulty of the game though, because the truth is, the game is also very, very easy. I consistently chose the hardest difficulty the game allowed me to play on at the time, and in my 6 hours of gameplay to beat every single level, I failed exactly twice. The game just never gave me much of a challenge. Maybe because I'm too much of an epic gamer, but in terms of difficulty, the game thinks harder difficulties is just spawning more and more enemies to an absurd degree. So after finding some reliable items to do AoE damage and healing, I was pretty much unstoppable. It's a giant shame as well, because Dungeons has officially ended support, and no more updates will be coming its way. But out of all the games I'm playing in this video, Dungeons had real potential. It could have been seriously good. I liked the core art style, the designs are solid, it had a great foundation, but the rest of the systems just didn't have enough time to cook in the oven, and it comes across as like a short demo or a concept game, half-baked. Once again though, I would like to sing this game's positives. In terms of spin-off games, Minecraft Dungeons works. It feels authentic and does justice to its host game, while expanding and adding plenty of its own. Dungeons' biggest failing isn't in anything it does, but in what it doesn't do. It's too reserved, and ultimately, it's only notable by the name it bears. And once you compare it to other games it's in direct competition with, it's utterly unremarkable. Dungeons could have and should have been better. The only thing Dungeons should be remembered for nowadays is it's just another example of modern gaming's greed with additional purchases, DLC, and holy crap, I forgot to mention, this game had a battle pass! Who the hell paid money for a Minecraft Dungeons battle pass? Oh my god! So I give Minecraft Dungeons 5 out of 10. Completely middle of the road. It's time. It's time I have to talk about Minecraft Story Mode Season 2. Before getting into Season 2, I want to have a quick aside to talk about the truth behind Telltale Games. I ran a community poll on this channel where I asked people which of the Minecraft spin-offs have people actually played. Out of the 60,000 odd responders, 48% chose Story Mode, with only 28% of people saying none at all. Minecraft is the most sold game in history. If nearly half the responders answered Story Mode, then surely Story Mode's sales figures would be incredibly high, right? Well, looking at Steam's player numbers, we can see it had an all-time high player count of 6,400 concurrent players. And while ownership numbers aren't public, we can make a good enough estimate that on Steam, it sold roughly 1 million copies. Going by achievement numbers, only 33% of those players completed all 5 episodes in the base game. Strange. Wait a second, let me check something. Technoblade's Let's Play, 9 million views. Captain Sparkle's 4 million views. Stampy Longhead, 4 million views. The full game with no commentary, 6 million views. And Dan TDM, 13 million views. It's starting to make sense now. No one actually played any of these games. They just watched some ass on YouTube, and now that they're nostalgic, act like it was high art. Well, let me tell you, there's a reason Telltale Games went bankrupt. It's because most people can just watch a YouTube video and get 99% the same experience. Well, sorry hun, but I'm a gamer with a hard R. I like gameplay in my games. Talking about miserable experiences, Minecraft Season 2, a game which even less people played. Hell, Dan TDM couldn't even be bothered to edit it into a video. He just live streamed the whole thing. Didn't stop the view figures though. Jessie is back, and for some reason a girl this time. I just wanted to hear the other voice actor, and I will say, Catherine Tabor does a way better job voicing Jessie than Patton Oswalt.
Wow, I had no idea you guys had gotten so lame.
So, credit where it's due. And you know what? I went into Season 2 initially somewhat positive. It's a very simple game, but I can turn all the options off. Oh my god! For starters, the dialogue options are actually more expansive. I mean, not really, you still only have 3 responses, but sometimes you can be a narcissist, which I obviously like because I can self-insert. And on top of that, they've added more gameplay sections with some expression and skill. Additionally, they've added UI which tells you when your story changes. So this actually acts as a bit of a player reinforcement tool that when I choose a dialogue option and that pops up, I get reassured that, wow, this game actually changed because of me! Wowee! Woo! In reality though, the choices are just as shallow as before, but now I get to feel like they aren't. It's like a placebo sugar pill that makes me hallucinate smoke and mirrors. And at least for episode 1, the characters are genuinely written better, and in a much more compelling way. There's internal conflict for one, doubt, friction between personalities, makes the whole thing feel a lot more dramatic. Petra has grown distant from the group. Now that we've gone from rugged adventuring to administrative duty managing Beacon Town, she expresses outright how she thinks the others are just lame now. We find out later she's even moved out of Beacon Town without telling anyone. Shady. And we meet a character called Jack, who is an adventurer himself, but a much more old, worn-out soul who gave up his adventuring days after losing 2 close friends to an ocean temple he swore never to go back to. He almost seems haunted by the experience. Also, the voice of Jack is the exact same voice and actor of Soldier 76 from Overwatch, so maybe there's some bleed over from that character messing with me.
Just like old times.
While I'm singing this game's praises, I'll also mention that the cinematography is way better as well. The framing, lighting, and even the character animation far succeeds the original. Generally, the game looks pretty damn nice. It is still a Telltale game though. I still absolutely hate it. Yes, while many aspects of Season 1 have been noticeably and objectively improved and refined and blah blah blah, the core issues of the lack of true gameplay or choice are still very much present. And while I went into Episode 1 excited that it may be an improvement, by the end of Episode 2, I was once again miserably flicking through my phone waiting for the whole thing to end already. While Season 1 mainly focused around reassembling and the history of the Order of the Stone, Season 2 instead focuses around Jessie trying to overcome and defeat the admin. Yeah, despite this being a story set in Minecraft, there exists admins. Like it's on a server, except it's not. It's very confusing. For the sake of the story, being an admin is just like having a superpower. Well, anyway, I'm not going to go super in depth about the nitty-gritty of the story, but I will give it an overview because it is called story mode. Basically, a long time ago there was 3 friends who were admins of this Minecraft world. Romeo, Zara, and Fred. At some point, Romeo turned into a crazed narcissist and literally killed and murdered Fred and imprisoned Zara for like years. bedrocked over the entire world and started a new world where he was their garden master. And that's basically the world Jesse has been living in this entire time. After defeating the Witherstorm from last game, Jesse caught the attention of the admin, and now he wants to be friends with Jesse. And by friends, I mean making them endure gauntlet after gauntlet of suffering for his amusement. So Jesse rightfully goes on an adventure to escape the clutches of the admin and find a way to defeat him. Episode 1 involves travelling to that ocean temple to find a mystical structure block, only to be discovered by the admin for the first time. Episode 2 involves enduring one of the admin's trials in a giant frozen fortress. However, Jesse fails the admin's arbitrary challenge, so they get sent to another dimension, which is essentially a giant prison. Damn, fashionable getup. Who designed your outfit? Hugo Block? You see, I'm taking your friends to the gas chamber. Sorry, did I say gas chamber? I meant gassed chamber.
Our newest associate will be walking you out.
So where's the armband? After escaping the giant concentration cube, Jesse explores the previous world the admin had bedrocked over, as we learn all about the previous two admins Romeo wrestled power from, and how they used to be friends. And it's at this point I had a bit of a psychological breakdown. You see, there's a point in the game where we're exploring a town dedicated to memorializing the now dead previous admin Fred, and we get to explore Fred's old home before he died. And I had a schizophrenic theory that the game would suddenly take a dark twist, a dark turn, and obviously my delusions didn't come true, not even close, but I'm going to share my schizo theory with you anyway, to hopefully let you in on the kind of psychosis this game put me in. It was so weird to me that there exists admins in this universe where people literally live in Minecraft that I started to think, wait, what if it is a game this whole time? And Jesse, Petra, Jack, and everyone we've ever met in all the games, what if they're just all NPCs? What if it's just a giant game and we don't realize that we're just like AIs within the system? Romeo, Zara, and Fred, the three admins, they're the only real people. It's why they're admins. They're the creators and players on this server. And the reason Zara and Fred lost their admin powers is not because the story makes no sense, it's because Romeo got butt mad in real life and de-opt them using the console. This whole time, even in season 1, everyone in universe is supposed to be adults who've supposedly lived in this world for years, yet they speak about making stone tools or acquiring gas tiers or basic stuff like it's some great feat. Well, it would explain everything. The reason all the writing is bad is not because Telltale can't tell a tale. No, it's because they're just children playing an imaginary game. Romeo speaks like a spoiled 10-year-old, not because he's badly written, no, it's because he is one! And the reason so much weight and hardship is put on Fred being dead to the point of memorializing and preserving his old Minecraft house is not because he died in game, it's because he died in real life. Maybe he died from AIDS! Oh my god, we're gonna get a scene where Jesse realizes their whole life was a simulated lie! You'll explain why there's a command block in season 1. Jesse, Magnus, Gabriel, Eleanor, they're just their friends from school. It's why they're written like children, not because the writing is terrible or the game is horrific. No, it's a twist. 3 years in the making. No, Romeo is evil because he's evil. It's never explained why he killed Fred and later kills Zaya. He's just a power-tripping moderator for the sake of it, which I guess would actually be quite standard. So Jesse and the gang finally return from the underworld back to Beacon Town and find out that the admin Romeo has transformed into a replacement Jesse copycat and is essentially skinwalking her. As it turns out though, the only way to truly defeat an admin is to beat the crap out of him with the Infinity Gauntlet. Who knew? You know, throughout the entire game, all 5 episodes, Jesse and the admin have had extensive conversations with one another, and the player gets to choose what they get to say to him, be it positive, negative, dismissive, and whenever we speak to the admin in all 5 episodes, there's constant reminders in the top left corner that the admin will remember that. and throughout episodes 4 and 5, they hastily try to set up a motivation and even a redemption arc for the admin. I mean, sure, he may have put you through hours of torment, killed your friends, killed his own friends, and is literally using interdimensional slave labor, but maybe he's not actually that bad of a guy. Who knows? And at the climax of the final episode, it gives you one choice on whether to save him or to leave the admin to die. I, of course, left him to suffer. I mean, come on. But stay with me. What if it was different? Let's say, instead of driving away his friends via his own narcissism, him and his friends just naturally grew apart over time as they developed as people, each wanting something different out of life, each heading down their own different paths. Their friendship died not with a bang, but with a whimper. Romeo, however, never moved on. He's stuck forcing those left close to him to act like they did years ago, playing pretend in his own little worlds he creates. A prison, an ice fortress, a post-apocalyptic town. He says Fred is dead, but what if Fred wasn't? Fred's just not here anymore. So he becomes obsessive, controlling even. He blames his friends for moving on. They abandoned him. They don't care. He forces Jesse and others into his creations and machinations, yet Jesse's refusal just angers him further. Rejection! It's the same all over again. Romeo is a lonely, mad tyrant with all the power in the world, but nobody to share it with. To me at least, that's a far more compelling villain. And throughout Jesse's and Romeo's numerous conversation and actions throughout the entire game, where it's constantly telling you, Romeo will remember that. What if the final decision of the game wasn't whether Jesse gets to save or leave Romeo to die, but rather Romeo decides whether or not the player lives or dies? Your actions and words you've said throughout this entire experience culminate in a decision. While guided by you every step of the way, it's ultimately out of your hands. Can you convince Romeo not just to save himself, but another's life as well? Telltale Games starts every episode by saying that this game series adapts to the choices you make. It's a lie. What I just presented to you in my own manic state far exceeds the culmination of complexity in all of Telltale's games. Look, Minecraft Story Mode is bad. Minecraft Story Mode 2 is bad with better visuals. 2 out of 10. And now it's time for a game which literally no one cared about. Minecraft Legends. Minecraft Legends was released April 2023 and is a third-person real-time strategy. To be completely honest here, RTS games aren't exactly my cup of tea to begin with. I much prefer my strategy games turn-based, where the skill and success lies in my ability to make a logical and well thought out plan, rather than the spastic clicking and keyboard mashing of real-time games, where success is instead determined by navigation of the game's UI the fastest. Games like StarCraft may as well be ranked Microsoft Excel. I'm plateauing spreadsheets. Now, Minecraft Dungeons proved to me that Minecraft in different genres can work, but an RTS game isn't exactly what I would have suggested. I think a colony management game like RimWorld would be a really interesting idea, but what do I know? I don't have 11 concurrent players on Steam. Talking about the low player numbers, it's only in writing the script after I've played the game that I realised I've made a mistake. Turns out Minecraft Legends was developed and intended to be a PvP experience. The single player campaign mode, which is what I played, is basically a glorified tutorial. So I do hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me. I couldn't exactly convince 6 of my friends to also buy Minecraft Legends, and I can't play online. There's no lobbies, non-existent. I've got a better shot finding random people on the street. Hey, do you want to play Minecraft Legends? It's the hit new game from Mojang Studios and Blackbird Interactive. It has lots and lots of players and is really, really fun. So the single player campaign is set on an open world overworld map, where several villages are scattered across it. The player character is attached to a horse permanently like a tumor and uses it to navigate and explore this map, traveling from village to village. Each village has a core and key buildings which must be defended, as every single night enemies will choose one or multiple villages to raid, which means you gotta spend your daytime running around collecting resources and building defenses. How do you do this, you might ask, if you hypothetically gave a crap about this game? Through the use of allies, of course! You see, you go around to different biomes and place small buildings to which allies will collect resources of a certain type in a small radius. For example, if I'm in need of wood, I can travel to a place with trees, place down one of these small buildings, and allies will start collecting all the wood in that area. However, something like iron is rarer and requires that I travel to specific biomes on the map to collect it. For example, a forest. Using these resources, you can build defenses such as walls, sentry towers, and even more advanced machinery later on. The main bad guys of this game are the piglins, who've decided to do an all-out assault on the overworld, invading with their forces. So how does the actual combat work against these piglins? Well, using the resources you've collected, you can build spawners, and with Lapis, spawn in troops which will follow you around as an army. Some units are better against certain foes, while some units' main job is the destruction of enemy buildings when taking the fight right back against the piglin in their own bases. It could be argued that a level of strategy is involved in choosing what units to bring to your army, and having and managing different corps in the battlefield. However, the army size is weirdly limited to just 20 units, so any amount of strategy possible is taken away with just how damn restrictive it is. There are enemy bases scattered across the map in the form of strongholds, where you have to defeat all of them to win the game. And as all it takes to kill a stronghold is destroying the central nether portal, I found that the most effective strategy is to just equip 20 stone guys which specialize in taking down buildings, running straight into the enemy base, ignoring absolutely everything, and rushing the central portal, and then running the hell out of there. Using this strategy, I literally defeated every base in the game within 4 hours of playing. I also never died once, the game's also kind of easy. You see, the combat in this game is almost entirely dependent on your troops, as you, the player character, only do a pitiful amount of damage. So most of the time, you just sat there waiting for the AI to beat up the AI, which isn't exactly stellar gameplay. The game gives you a variety of commands to give your troops to help them in the combat and tell them what buildings to focus on, except I never used any of these. I tried them out, but simply put, the AI in this game sucks ass. I did try getting the AI to split off and attack multiple buildings at once, but it was fruitless. They get stuck, they don't attack stuff, or wander off. You're so much better just spamming the group up key on the thing you actually want destroyed, and then just exhaustively waiting for them to destroy it. Which usually takes a while because the AI is so badly programmed, units will get blocked by other units, so only about 10 of your 20 max units are actually effective. The others are just waiting reserves for when they die. And what I have described there is 90% of the gameplay. Clicking on a building and waiting for it to get destroyed. Huzzah! Base by base, doing the exact same thing over and over. But don't worry about any of the enemy defenses, traps or unit spawners, because the AI is also bad for them, and their range is so limited that once you get to the central portal of the base, you're literally out of range for most of their defenses. It's like having a security guard posted everywhere but the Fabergé egg. No, don't worry about defense. We've got little Timmy shooting 22 LR to defend us against the fucking Luftwaffe. Let's talk about the visuals. Take a look at this random frame from my gameplay. Does this look like a Minecraft game to you? The art style in this half cel-shaded, uncommitted voxel style doesn't read Minecraft to me. The only clue that this is even a Minecraft game is this pickaxe sprite hidden at the bottom of the screen, which is weird that they use this sprite because they literally replaced everything else. This is meant to be lapis. This is meant to be diamonds, believe it or not. Even the scaling on the cubes is completely wrong. The player character is 4 blocks high, not because they're tall, but because the cubes are tiny. And on top of it all, present throughout the entire game, but hard to get a look at because there's literally no zoom key, is there's a bunch of mobs and items which have weirdly smoothed edges on top. This is more visible in the pre-rendered cutscenes. I mean, look at this villager's head! What's wrong with your head? What the hell? I praise Dungeon's art style and its direction for its deviation from Minecraft's source. Each level in Dungeons has a slew of new visuals, mobs and blocks, but what's important is they still felt cohesive to the already established visual identity of the series. Legends doesn't look like a Minecraft game. It almost feels embarrassed that it's one, doing everything in its power to not be. Why change the sprite for wood? Why change the bloody sprite for diamonds? Does this redesign add anything other than confusion? Let's talk about the story. Just like Dungeons, Legends is light when it comes to story. It's more gameplay focused. However, while Dungeons understands this and generally leaves you alone to enjoy what's there, Legends is constantly blabbing in your ears about the most inane, boring stuff on the planet. Presented by our three allies. Knowledge, Foresight, and Action. Yes, those are really their names. Who constantly cheer on every action we take and over-explain in a hand-holding tutorial-esque voice for the entire game, all while speaking their lines like they're on an episode of Dora the Explorer. We can do it and take the fight back to those mean piglins. Just a bit further. Yeah, you're doing great. Don't forget to build a spawn point. You never know when you might need one. Thanks, Foresight, but I already know the answer. Never. The whole vibe from this game feels very corporate. I feel so lame and uncool just playing the damn thing. I honestly think I'd rather be caught watching pornography. Hey Gerg, have you been having sex with... Hey, is that Minecraft Legends? No. I'm watching gore videos. Ah, that's way more normal. Anyway, it's not like anyone cares. Minecraft Legends sucks, we all know that. There's been plenty of videos making fun of its lackluster sales and massive drop in player counts. But this may be shocking to you all. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I still think it's better than Minecraft Story Mode. 2 out of 10. So that's all the Minecraft spin-offs reviewed. Of course, Minecraft Dungeons ended up being my favourite. All I'm left with now is the thought of all the hours I've sunk wasted into playing these horrific games. That, and this physical copy of Story Mode I now own. What should I do with you? I wonder.